Tell us about the anti-disease and anti-cancer benefits of sprouts.
Sure. Well, we could say that, one of the things we've found in recent years is that the baby plant foods, have these natural protective ingredients that drives insects away. And they produce more of the glucosinolates, and when they're cut or broken, isothiocyanates for powerful anti-cancer effects, that the baby food and the sprouts have a little different biochemical content than the larger food does. And we also know there is some advantage to biochemical diversity in our diet. There's some advantage. I'm saying right now that the blue zones are not the most healthy way you can eat. They're better than the way Americans eat, but they don't have sufficient biochemical exposure and diversity. Sure, they're living 6 to 8 years longer than the average American, but big deal. They happen to be eating a diet culturally or geographically that has healthier food they're eating, but each blue zone has its defects. Each blue zone is not designed to be an ideal diet. The Nutritarian diet I advocate looks at every blue zone, analyzes what's the beneficial thing being consumed and what's the thing that's not so beneficial they're doing, to see if we can do better than that. And when you pick those foods out to analyze what are the best foods and put that together into a full dietary portfolio, we get substantially increased benefits for lifespan, disease resistance, but most of all, the diet becomes more therapeutically effective to reverse disease and to actually have people who are sick get well again from lupus and scleroderma and psoriasis and heart disease and diabetes and all types of emotional disorders. So we see people make tremendous progress. Sprouts and microgreens are part of that that nutritional diversity we're talking about, increasing the exposure to those foods, because actually I do that when we actually grow these microgreens, pea shoots and kale and broccoli sprouts and radish sprouts, and grow them actually in like peat moss and we cut them off and eat them when they're small shoots. And we also have a sprouter, so we're adding that to the vegetables we're growing in the garden. And years ago, 15, 20 years ago, we couldn't go to the supermarket like Whole Foods Market and buy microgreens, baby arugula, or broccoli sprouts and put them into our salad. Those things weren't available. The fact that we have these foods available show a couple of things. Number one, a lot of people must be knowing about this. A lot of science, people are exposed to some of this science, or the supermarkets wouldn't be keeping them in their shelves because nobody would be buying them. There's some awareness that these are healthy foods by the general population. I've been a promoter of, these type of foods, as, obviously a lot of science out there doing that. And number two, we have access to them and we can utilize them to increase the nutritional diversity of our diet. Compared to a diet that's maybe you go away to one of these health retreats and you just eat nothing but sprouts or eat all sprouts. Nobody's going to maintain that. Even if that diet was good, which it's not, it's still narrowing your nutritional diversity. But even how much benefit you get from eating that way, 99% of the people aren't going to maintain that long term. And we have to have a diet that people can maintain long term as well. Because temporarily losing weight or benefiting you or doing something good is not going to have long-term enrichment to your psychological, emotional, and longevity and healthy life expectancy. So the facts are, yes, we want to design a dietary portfolio that tastes good, has diversity, inclusive, not exclusive, that utilizes sprouts and microgreens, and of course, let people learn to love that they can maintain this style of cooking as they get older and meets their sufficiency for those nutrients, and of course, is supplemented conservatively, intelligently with anything that may be missing in their dietary portfolio to the level that's ideal for them. So all those things enables us to use science to really almost guarantee people's maximum health that we couldn't do years ago.
Is there such a thing as being addicted to certain foods? How do you break free from these addictions?
Absolutely. I think that's I put my most effort on these last 30 years is because I've infected so many people that understand the nutritional science and want to make the change. And so many of them fail and don't make the change they want to make. They lose a little weight, they dabble in it, they do it halfway, they gain their weight back. It's just like, God, a person calls me from the ICU and says, Joel, I heard what you had to say. I know I should have listened to you, but I couldn't do it. And here I am in the emergency room with a heart attack. I'm so sorry. And I said, don't apologize to me. I'm not, it's okay. I'm here to help you, and let's see if we can get you back on, figure out what but still but it touches my heart to realize that this person didn't have to have that heart attack, that they knew better. They actually they actually learned about some of this science, and they didn't have to have that happen. They chose not to. And, studying that over the years, how these foods have been designed by scientists, by food scientists, to hook people and to get them addicted to them. And they're actually designed in that way to make you want to eat more of them. And we're learning more about how the brain works and how the brain is affected by concentrated calories and fast absorbed calories, and how dopamine receptors and the hypothalamus and how the stretch receptors and the nutrient, we've learned so much. And I've written about that, and I published in the scientific literature about this. I've written an article published in 2010, I think it was, The Changing Perception of Hunger on a High Nutrient Density Diet, showing that as we improve the nutritional quality of the diet, a person's desire to overeat calories goes down and their addictions become lessened. And why a person always fails where they try to control calories willy-nilly without paying attention to the nutritional quality of what they're eating. And why, for example, I felt compelled to really have a center where people can come and stay with me and live there. And I've been doing that for much of my career. Even when I started my medical practice like 30 years ago in Flemington, 20 years ago, I rented a 7-bedroom house in downtown Flemington where people would come in for a month or two. And now I have a nicer place in San Diego where people come in for a month or two because they're overweight food addicts or other medical conditions. They're trying to reverse their conditions. But what I'm saying right now is the most important answer to the question. And that is the word abstinence. Unless there's a period of time of controlled abstinence, you're not going to lose the desire for the monster inside of you who can't control your control of yourself with food. The alcoholic's going to have trouble controlling their alcohol intake if they keep drinking, and the cocaine addict's going to have trouble controlling the amount of cocaine and desire for cocaine if they keep using cocaine. But after they're off the cocaine for 12 weeks, the power the cocaine has over them has lessened. And when people are using, sugar, salt, oil, concentrated sweeteners, it overtakes their brain. So I always say they've lost the keys to the bank. We're not even talking to you anymore. We're talking to some person who isn't you, that's formed now from being an addict for so long. You know what I mean? And now this addict mind, the primitive brain, has desire, so much of this desire, like a baby crying for its bottle. Wah, wah, wah. The primitive brain is looking to protect its addiction and continue that and reduce the anxiety from trying to give up a food that you're dopamine addicted to. So the primitive brain obviously is going to look for any kind of illogical or crazy rationalization why they don't have to make the change. Oh, well, I can't with my job or the food. I'm not going to like the food, or I travel too much, and it's too much stress in my life, or whatever they're going to come up with. The primitive brain is always going to come up with some excuse to enable this person to continue their illicit love affair with these dangerous foods. And I always say an excuse is no excuse, because your stress is enhanced by your addiction, and the addiction is keeping you in prison. And the addiction is making you unhappy and miserable and interfering with it's making you depressed and dysthymic. And it's these, so they don't, and you don't think creatively, and you can't think creatively and intelligently to solve the problems in your life. It leads to your problems and makes you not as good of a parent or a neighbor or a friend or a spouse, or makes you less, you're not the full human you could have become. You're a mere shell of yourself. So obviously some people, not all people, but some people really do better when they're either their family or their friends or somebody helps them clean out their exposure, make sure they don't have exposure to cigarettes, not in their environment. And obviously when people come into our facility here in San Diego, they're in a healthy atmosphere of delicious food, but there's no chance of being exposed to salty, sugary, and sweets and all kinds of, and with a period of time away from those substances, every week they're gone from that, their attraction lessens, the drive to consume those lessen, and their appreciation of more subtly sweetened and subtly flavored foods enhances. And now at least they have the possibility of living with this long term. When you're always dabbling with one foot in both worlds, you're creating it harder for yourself. People say, baby steps, that, cheating, it's okay, but my experience is that for people who have trouble and real food addicts, the baby step approach doesn't work very well. People are all they don't feel well enough. They're dabbling in both worlds. They don't get the full benefit of the dietary change where they really feel robust and their main thinking is clear, and they're seeing their weight fall off them. They don't get the benefits, the health benefits, and then they don't really get the taste and enjoyment benefits either, because they keep pushing, and they're under stress because they're always having to make a decision of what they should do. Should they do it? Should they go all the way? Should they cheat today? Should they just have it? But once you've made a full decision to do this 100%, it becomes easy because there's no decisions, there's no stress. And for every day you put together that adherence to essentially avoiding being abstinent of those food addictions, it's pull on you lessons and lessons, and enables people to make dramatic progress and succeed where they failed in the past. So I have to say my own viewpoints and my own advocacy for what I teach has changed a little bit over the years, right? Because over the years of seeing those who failed and why they failed has caused me to become even more strict in my advocacy, that I want people to be more compliant, not 90%, not 95%. I'm really advocating 100% compliance because I've seen it lead to better outcomes and better chances of people losing their addictions and staying with this long term.